So, as most of us will be aware by now, Manny Pacquiao took out Lucas Mattythsse in 7 rounds, looking pretty darn good for somebody who's 39 when you consider his natural size, his style, how long he's been fighting for, how many wars he's had. He looked pretty darn sprightly for a 39-year-old blitzkrieg type southpaw. As I say, he's had loads of tough fights in his career. Started as a wee little teen. Did he turn pro at 14, Pacquiao? He's been hustling his whole life. You know, he looked very good, but we had that old phrase by his good friend saying it's going to be Pacquiao 2.0. We were just reminded recently of a David Haye 2.0 and 3.0 and what that looked like. It wasn't pretty. You could see even though Pacquiao looked particularly good for his age, it's not the same Pacquiao we saw 8 to 9 years ago when he was at the height of his tremendous peak, when he was going up the weights, when he took out Hatton, when he beat up Cotto. You can see it's not as fluid. You can see his body is almost like being weighed down a bit more by gravity now, with the joints are creaking. Even though it's still quick and impressive, you can see there's not the same fluidity or spring there that there used to be. He's not throwing as many shots. He's not quite as creative, but much better boxer than Mattythsse. That's why he was easily able to just pop him, and then take him out with some pretty nice combinations. That left uppercut was pretty handy, along with his classic counter right hook that he's always thrown and really built up under Freddie Roach. But it looked to me like Mattythsse, another bit of a mental capitulation from him, which is kind of what he did with Victor Postol as well. As I say, he only really threw a few right hooks that kind of grazed Pacquiao. He didn't manage to open him up at all. He was really just playing second fiddle the whole fight. He did not know what to do with Pacquiao's footwork. He was, he was a bit of a heavy bag, as Teddy Atlas kind of said, which is true. Now, that's a pretty good performance, very respectable for a 39-year-old legend like Pacquiao to have just turned in. It would be a great time for him to retire, but he's always looking for the next guy to fight. There's the Mayweather rematch, which I don't want to see happen. There's so many just fanboys on each side of the camp that I think loads of people would just love to see the rematch regardless, even though Mayweather's not coming out of his retirement, and that fight's not happening. But what's the deal here? Those who know Pacquiao and his career better, is he just constantly out of money? What's going on? I know he gives a lot to charities. I know he's bought a lot of his Filipinos is the correct term. I know he's bought them a lot of homes, a lot of poor people. So is he just constantly out of pocket because he seems to just want to fight and fight and fight? Was that his 60th fight now in a career, as I say, that's just laden with warfare? He should be retired by now. The fact that he's kind of been straddling politics and fighting for this long as well now, it's like, what's going on? This guy should be checking out. He should be hanging up those gloves. But onwards he continues, which brings us the question of who's he going to fight next? Who's he realistically going to fight? We know Bob Arum wanted him to fight Terence Crawford. There was the idea of Lomachenko, but I think there's too much of a difference in weight there at this stage of their career. I don't think Lomachenko's going to go up. Pacquiao's not going to come down enough for them to meet. And that's fine with me, because I don't want to see a guy past his prime like Pacquiao, even though he still looks good, draining himself and being made to look stupid by someone like Lomachenko, who's a tremendous fighter, but I don't want to see that with another legend. Of course, you got Spence. I don't think, there's a massive size differential there. I don't think that's going to happen. Terence Crawford is going to keep getting mentioned, I think, because ultimately the fight is going to make big bucks, and Crawford, I think, would be willing to do that. Again, I think a bad fight for Pacquiao. Crawford just seems to be getting better as he goes up in weight. I think Crawford would light him up and take him out in a kind of depressing manner, which we don't want to see, again, for such a tremendous legend of the sport. A word about that atmosphere, actually, for the Mattythsse fight. It was tremendous. It was really banging, the atmosphere. Everyone chanting, Manny, Manny. It was just, I think it really typified just how much people love Pacquiao, how great of a fighter he has been, kind of still is. The fanfare he gets is amazing. It was just pulsating, the atmosphere. It was awesome. As I say, Terence Crawford, he's probably going to keep getting mentioned, so it would be a great payday for him, but I think it would be a bad idea for Pacquiao. Keith Thurman, what's going on with him? He continues to be absent. I think out of all the real big high-profile fights that could be made, I think that would be the best one to make. If Thurman were to come back out of nowhere and go, I'll fight Pacquiao because I feel I can take this older guy out, I think it could almost slightly work in Pacquiao's advantage, because he would be like, well, Thurman's been out for ages, and I might be able to hurt and bust up this rusty young fighter who doesn't like it to the body, and I think that might be the way to go. But I don't know. I think, anytime he bows out now, you know, he's got to win. It's the first knockout since the Cotto stoppage, isn't it? It's a good time for Pacquiao to bow out good old Manny. But what do you think? If he is going to fight again, which it very much looks like he is going to do, because as I say, he's perpetually out of pocket for some reason, then who would you like to see him fight next, realistically, and how would you see that fight going?